Hi folks, trying out some new stuff with the videos. You're not going to see my face for long, but a couple people have said it's sort of impersonal, that they've never seen me before, so here you go. Hat, because still haven't showered yet this morning. Beard that needs either trimming or shaving off, but anyways. So today is Saturday, May 19th, is that right? Saturday, May 19th. This is the software update. So this is careerusers.org if you haven't been here before. I help maintain it, so I do recommend you check it out. It's much easier to use, in my opinion, and in our opinion, than the Hammerhead forums. Obviously, the Hammerhead does not really participate here very much. These are unofficial forums, but this is, regular forum software that has updates. You get notified of, or can get notified of, threads that have been updated, unlike their forums, which are a little tricky to use sometimes. So their forums are fine if you want to make sure the information is getting directly to them. Not so good if you are there regularly and trying to keep up with things. So software was released on Thursday, version, or I guess mid version 38. That's it. None of these, the first, third, and fourth number don't really appear to change very much unless they go to a major revision. So really, I guess you could call this 538. That probably makes the most sense. So let's switch this off so you can see me or not see me anymore and actually see the page. I've zoomed this in. I'm also recording this part in 4K, so I don't know, but my software that I use to actually generate the videos can only do 720p, so we'll see how this goes and how legible this all is when this comes out in the wash. So there are some enhancements here. Unfortunately, I have not been able to try very many of these, so you can read these for yourself. I'm not going to read them off. I will point out and highlight this one because there are some problems with this, and there are problems with what they did, or sorry, this, I guess I should just be highlighting this. So there are some problems with the list of activities and the list of routes being long, particularly in the case of routes, because they removed the search functionality or the filter functionality of this. So for me, I only have less than 10 routes on my device. It's not a big deal, but I do know people that have 20, 30, 40 routes because they change their club rides weekly, even just slightly, and it's very difficult to pick the route from a list when it gets to the point of 20, 30, 40, 50. So hopefully they'll do something about that. It was in a previous software version and now it's not. So this I have not tried, and I think I go into this in the on bike video, but my power meter has actually been acting up. So I've already talked to Stages about it. There was some speculation, or we did some testing that there might have been some water intrusion. To their credit, I sort of got it working yesterday. I'm not super confident in it, and they still agreed to just replace it. So I'm having a new one sent to my local bike shop. They're going to swap it out and send the old one back. And, it took a couple of days of back and forth support tickets, but, that's fine. It's not like the crank doesn't work when power doesn't work. It's just not recording anything. The crank is still fine. So good on Stages for their really what I consider excellent customer support. They probably didn't have to replace it. I was very close to the end of my warranty period. In fact, they looked it up and it was this very week last year that I purchased it. So I am right on the borderline of 1 year, and they still, without much fuss or prodding on my part, just agreed that probably it was wise to just swap it out. So I don't know. I don't know about this Ant Plus thing because I don't really trust the Ant Plus. I did ride. I have 2 rides that I'll show at the end of this. That excuse me, 2 rides on the end of this that I did. One I have power for, one I don't. the power on the second ride is Bluetooth only. So I will try this, and supposedly the newer stages also has slightly stronger, I believe he said antennas. It sounds like it does a better job. So maybe there is something wrong um, with the stages as far as Ant Plus communicating with the Karoo, but I'm not sure about that because the stages only speaks to the Garmin on Ant Plus. So here's some of the bug fixes. You can read them. I'm gonna kind of read them along with you, but not out loud. And so this turn-by-turn instructions thing, that's sort of what the next two videos are about. So I'm gonna let those speak for themselves. But partly this was a misunderstanding, I think, on a lot of users' part, where they had totally squashed this bug, and they did not. So you'll see that in the video. I'm not going to go over that again. I didn't try adaptive brightness. I don't use that because I still don't, again, I don't really trust it. This is kind of funny because this actually looks like it's fixed. And I'm laughing because I was unclear whether I was supposed to speak about this or not. I guess we've gotten approval too, but another gentleman and I, Steve, who helps run this forum, actually had a conference call with Hammerhead about a week ago. So it was more just a meet and greet and a hello and a thank you from them for us. I guess a little bit of a thank you for the forums and for the support we've sort of been providing on Facebook and their forums, answering some questions. But Steve and I have both also been fairly, I don't know what the right word is, but we've kind of held their nose to the grindstone a bit. And but it sounds like they also appreciated that. So I'm not going to go into any more detail on that because it was mostly just a hello and how are you kind of thing. But there was some talk about possibly doing it again, so we'll see where that leads. But this was one of the things that I pointed out in that conference call, and I realize it's a silly thing, but that was my point, that this was a silly thing that this kept resetting, and that it's something that they should just, it seemed like an easy thing to knock off of a hit list, to just correct and get it done and move on, and not have it continually appear on a list of known issues. Elevation spikes I have not actually seen. I didn't actually look at the power zone graphic last night because I was mostly concerned with how the turn-by-turn directions were happening. That was more my focus last night, and again, you'll see that in that video. I haven't really had very many data freezes. Route tracking, I'm not sure what this means. There's some stuff that I know I discussed in the upcoming clips, so I don't really want to rehash a lot of this stuff. There was some left and right stuff. I don't have a left-right power meter. The slow transition, I'm not sure what that's about. I don't think I've experienced that either. And then there are other issues, there are known issues. I'm guessing this list is much longer. Maybe this is the top kind of what people are complaining about, or their support tickets indicate. Most of this stuff, I think, the bracket feed failure, I'm not really going to go into that because I'm not necessarily faulting them on this. I think, once these things get out into the wild, stuff happens. And I think I've mentioned in a previous video that my Garmin, I'm on my third Garmin 510 because of broken ears. Now, to Karoo's credit, their ears are replaceable. You can just screw the thing off the back, screw another one on. Well, Steve's going to be on my YouTube video now. So, it's easily replaceable. The bigger problem is if they've designed it just like a Garmin, the device weighs twice as much as a Garmin. Even a 1030, it weighs probably 30 or 40% more than a large Garmin. So if they're using the same plastics, they're using the same design, it's, any kind of shock or vibration is going to be more prone to failure. Now, when I broke my Garmin's, they were really, I'm not sure I'd call them crashes, they were falls, but anyway, it's not exclusive to a Karoo that the bracket feet break. And again, because it's easily replaceable. So there was also a long, I think they sent an email or or there was a Facebook post somewhere where they're going to be replacing these. So they're not going to just send them willy-nilly to everyone. But if you've either had a broken one or you request one, they have redesigned it. They're using some different plastics. They showed a video, and maybe I can actually show that quickly because I think it's on their blog. So let me quickly switch over to the blog, because this sort of talks to this. So this is their blog on this Medium website. I don't really understand why they use so many different resources for their web presence, but they do. So so this talks about the waiting for instruction thing, and I'll let you look at the. I mean, you can go to blog.hammerhead.io and you'll see this post. I'm not going to read this whole thing, but down here underneath the symptoms and explanations, I'm not sure if I'm misreading this or what, but they seem to indicate that once you get this waiting for instruction or waiting for GPS, you will always get it. And I'm not going to say that's not true. I'm going to say that that's not my experience, and you'll see it in the video. I start rides. I basically start 4 rides, 2 with a route that starts about a mile away. You've actually seen me, if you've watched these videos, you've seen me ride that route. It starts about a mile from my house. 1 I did with auto pause on, 1 I did with auto pause off. With auto pause on, you get waiting for instructions. With auto pause off, you get routing. You get turn by turn. Did the same thing with the route that I was going to ride yesterday, and basically the same thing happens. That one starts at the end of my driveway. With auto pause on, it never gave me instructions. With auto pause off, it pauses for a few seconds and then almost immediately gives turn-by-turn instructions. So this whole this workaround system they give, and if you're having this problem, I suggest you go through this. They're saying that this fixes it. I'm saying this is not my experience, that the waiting for instructions or waiting for GPS are kind of locked to the device once the device gets it. So anyway, let me back up one version and see. So yeah, so here's their bracket foot update, and this is what they're talking about. This is what I call the ears. These little, I hope you can see me hovering over these little things that stick out on the side that basically makes the quarter turn mount work. So they've redesigned it. They're offering them free to everyone. They're showing, here's the ears broken off. I don't know why this picture's not resolving, which is a bummer, because I think that's the video, the GIF of it breaking. So that's a bummer. And then the other thing that can happen is the actual hole. This is where the screw goes through this hole here, and this is the inside of the bracket foot. Those are actually shearing off as well. So okay, so here is the other GIF showing them dropping it. The other one is actually more interesting. It is a little disturbing that the whole unit kind of pops apart in both of the videos. This one where it breaks and this one where it doesn't. It still seems like the back sort of comes off. Let me see if this video. Oh, here we go. So this one is now in, and you can see, this one you can actually see the ear go flying off, completely breaks off. That's a pretty drastic crash. I mean, that's kind of almost running into a wall or running into a tree, and trust me, I've done it before. So, but it does look really rubbery and wobbly, but it seems like it's holding, and that seems like a really dramatic fall. So anyways, that's the story on the bracket foot. The previous thing about the turn-by-turn. If you're having this problem, certainly follow these instructions or these directions for working around it. It's not my experience, and you're going to see that in these clips. So I've been recording way too long. I'm going to shut up and move on to the on-bike clips, and then at the end, if you want to see them, I have two recent rides on this software, one with power, one without, but I recorded both on the Karoo and on the Garmin, so it's maybe a little more interesting.
Hi folks, so hopefully this clip is prefixed by a longer or a clip maybe inside going through some of the software updates. We had a software update. Today is May 18th, 2018. We had a software update yesterday on the 17th. I don't remember the version number, but it should be posted in the previous clip. But what I wanted to try to show here, so I went to my club ride last night, and although I didn't need it, I tried to use turn-by-turn directions. And I seem to be having an issue with, it's still, well, let's back up a second. So I thought I had read in the patch notes that they had corrected the whole waiting for instruction turn-by-turn directions thing. Now in rereading that, it doesn't seem like that's the case. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go to so right now auto pause is on. So I want to show this behavior, if it does it for me this time. I just walked around the driveway and it did do the same thing. So we're going to pick road with power, and we're going to pick, so this is a route that does not start in front of my driveway. So I want to see what happens here. So auto pause kicked in, but if we go over to this page, well, that's interesting. Well, this is completely my fault. So let's start over here. Oh, I don't need Wi-Fi on. That was dumb. So let's get rid of this because this is never going to work without. So we're going to delete the ride. We're going to try this again. So road with power. This is the route that starts about a mile from my house. Auto pause is on. Now what has been happening is that this has not been successful in getting, so it does know where I am, and this has not been successful in getting turn-by-turn directions. I'll even give it a break and I'll move a little bit. Duck walking down the driveway. No, I don't think this is going to work. So auto pause is kicked back in. So, doesn't seem to be working. So you're going to watch this with me. Hopefully this is going to do the same thing it did earlier today when I was just standing in my driveway walking, now that I'm on the bike. So we're going to go back to that page. This is the road with power page. That was weird. I don't know if you saw that. It seemed to turn auto pause back on. We're going to turn auto pause off. We're going to go back. We're going to start a ride. We're going to pick the route test and hit start. And now this usually takes a few seconds, so we'll give it a couple of seconds. But typically what happens, it's going to make a liar out of me right now, is that without auto pause on, there it goes. So you saw that happen live and in person. So this does, at least some of these issues do appear to be related to auto pause. People have been reporting this for at least 2 weeks, that some behavior of auto pause has changed navigation. I'm not sure why these two things are coupled at all. It seems to me auto pause or pause in general, would only affect just the ride recording, whether data was being recorded or not, average speed, those kind of things. Seems like it would not be affected by auto pause, or would be affected by auto pause, and things like navigation, which is totally separate and related to GPS functions, would not. So I've been told that Hammerhead is watching these videos. I would dearly love a sort of a slightly more detailed explanation of what this is. So we're going to do it one more time, because, and I'm hoping this does it the way it did it previously. So we're going to go back to the page. We are going to turn auto pause back on. Because what seemed to happen earlier today is when the route starts away from where you are, it's affected. When it starts, and the other route that I'm going to select right now starts basically at the end of my driveway. So auto pause, let's just double check it, because now I've lost track while talking to you. Auto pause is on, which is typically the cause of the waiting for instructions problem in my limited experience. Obviously I'm one person with one device. So we're going to pick the usual loop from home, which starts basically at the end of my driveway. Now auto pause is on, but when I did this earlier today, even with auto pause on, because that red line is right there, I did get turn-by-turn directions. And we'll give it a second, and now it's going to make a liar out of me again. But this did work earlier. Maybe I'll move a little bit just to give it a break. I did move earlier. I didn't. That's not enough for auto pause to kick off, apparently. So this is very different. This is different behavior. This is, well, it's not completely different behavior. You just saw it with the other route. But when I did this route that starts, I can't remember if it's the flag with the hole in it or the flag without the hole in it. This actually worked both with auto pause and without it earlier today. So still not working. Discard. They really need, you know, again, if somebody is watching, they also need a cancel route. Like, change route's not good enough here. I think there's a lot of times that people would want to cancel it, and honestly, to me, that would almost be easier to deal with from a perspective would be have to cancel, and then when you have no route, have an add. Because change, if I were to hit change right now, it goes into this saving subroutine or whatever it's doing. It gets completely lost and really appears to freak out entirely. So let's try this one more time. After this, we're just going to go ride because I want to get in a nice easy ride today, and I don't want to play with devices. I haven't talked about it yet, but I'm actually also having a problem with my power meter, which stopped working. To Stage's credit, I'm under warranty, and they're just going to ship me a new one, and I'm going to send this one back. I think it's actually working. It seems like bringing it into the house and drying it out, although it really hasn't gotten very wet, has maybe fixed it. So here's auto pause off, usual loop from home, same route that I just did a second ago. Let's see if it makes a lot. Nope, immediately I get turn-by-turn directions. So I realize people on Facebook and other places have said, no, it's definitely not auto pause for me. It's definitely not. I don't find that to be true, at least not with my device. I don't know what the difference between my device and someone else's device running the same version of the software would be, but you just saw it again with two different routes, basically, you know, almost the same GPS coordinates, and it does seem like auto pause is at least a large contributing factor to this issue. So I've been pretty zoomed in here. You can see the Garmin's back on the device, and the silly headlight is mounted up on top. I've had it underneath before, but I actually just misplaced the rubber bands. So I don't know where my rubber bands went that were holding the light up underneath, but we'll just do this for now. Better safe than sorry. So we'll stop right now. This has been long enough. We're already up to 8 minutes on this silly video. So we're going to stop. I may stop mid-ride and see how things are going. Maybe I'll give a quick power meter update. It does appear to have sort of woken itself back up again. So we'll see what we get for power data, or if we get it. But not that important right now. Just going for a ride. Shutting up now. Hi folks, so a quick mid-ride update here. Very windy again down at the beach. I'll pan up. This is our usual stopping and chatting point, but you can kind of see by the lack of cars in the parking lot on May 20th, or May 18th I guess it is, that it's not a very great day here. About 52 degrees Fahrenheit. Kind of chilly for mid to late May, but this is New England, so this is almost what we get. But mid-ride update, everything actually appears to be mostly okay. The big other thing that I'm noticing, and this appears to be a bug that was introduced, is that this won't go away. It's going to do it now, I think, probably because I'm not moving, and the device likes to make a liar out of me. But that red turn instruction piece was basically not going away. I could touch it or swipe it, and about 2 or 3 seconds later it would come back. And of course, here while I'm recording, it won't do that. Let me see if I roll forward a bit. Nope. That's okay. You'll have to take my word for it, but it definitely appears to be a bug that was introduced, that the turn-by-turn, it always appears on this page, but it wasn't going away from this page. It's unfortunate because it blocks the bottom 4 fields, so it's kind of a pain in the neck. Thankfully, nothing terribly important there, and I'm just out for a ride, but so other than that, the power meter appears to be working, so I may have to email Stages back and tell them not to send me a replacement, although there was some indication that the unit that they were going to send me had newer hardware in it, so I guess I may give them the option, but I think I would actually prefer the newer hardware with better antennas apparently. And this one I'm not sure is actually okay. It's behaving today, but it's kind of on again, off again the last week or so. So other than that, the ride's going to be all screwed up. I may do a comparison, but because auto pause is off again on the Karoo and it's on the Garmin, the times are way off. You can probably see the Garmin is showing 24 minutes. The Karoo is already showing 32 minutes. So these things aren't going to line up very well in Golden Cheetah unless I really hack the files up, and that's kind of a pain. So I guess generally good news. We'll get back and I'll do a summary, and I think obviously, as I said earlier, prefixed to this is probably going to be a brief discussion of the software update and those changes. Alright folks, so I'm going to quickly show this while riding and trying not to crash, but you can see what's happening here. I tap it away, it comes right back. Tap it away, it comes right back. So that's what I was talking about. Apparently you have to be moving. I just grabbed the GoPro to try to show you this, and as soon as I stopped moving, that banner went away. So it has something to do with movement, whether it displays or not. Hi folks, so here's a quick example of where these routing cues are off, and this isn't the first time this has happened during a ride. It's not the first time. It's not a bug that was introduced with this software version. This is a relatively common occurrence, although I won't say it's regular. I will say it's fairly common. So you should be able to read this. I hope I'm zoomed in close enough and that the GoPro is actually focusing. But that street that crosses sort of diagonally from lower right to upper left is Church Street. I am on Pine Street. And there's a little triangle. I'll pan up so maybe you can see the road. So the road crossing in front is Church Street. I'm on Pine Street. You may even be able to read that sign depending on how good the GoPro video is and the quality of the device that you're viewing on. But this turn indicator is telling me to bear right. And what I really need to do is bear left. And technically I need to stop and turn left, although there isn't a stop sign up there. But that road doesn't have any stop signs crossing in front of me. So if I was not to stop and couldn't hear, I would get run over, or potentially run over. So just, you know, this, I'm planning on doing another follow-up video about the routing. The good news, I guess, from a navigation perspective is it does look like they've actually improved something in the navigation, and I don't know that that was detailed in any sort of patch notes, but I've been off course or off route, I guess, at least once, maybe twice, I think maybe just once. And although the turns that it was suggesting were a little weird, because it was in one case taking me down a dirt road, in another case it was taking me down a road that I know is a dead end. I think it was briefly trying to just get me back on course by having me essentially make a U-turn. Eventually, when I was sort of halfway in between turning around and just going forward and making my connection, it did correct itself. But the rerouting instructions were very quicker than I believe I've seen them before. So I don't know if there have been some small improvements in navigation that has caused that to happen, or if it's just some other thing going on with navigation or some other thing that they've added. But anyway, that's just a quick kind of pointer to things where this doesn't really, obviously the red line is my turn and that's pointing in the other direction. So I don't know if it doesn't know about this little triangle, and but it also says 1 mile, and that's right in front of me. Now the turn that I have to make is probably is in 1 mile, but this is where this indicator, where it thinks I'm on church, I guess it's trying to tell me that I'm on church. I'm not really sure what it's doing. Anyway, that's an indication of something that's very confusing to someone who would be using this for navigation and doesn't live in the area. Okay, one last follow-up, and then I think I'm going to not record any more of these. So, I just went through that little triangle. Literally, this is 30 seconds later. I just went through the triangle, looked down, and now this has changed from a turn in 1 mile to a turn in 0.3 miles. Now, I can tell you for sure that I have not gone 7/10 of a mile. This turn indicator is also incorrect, and if I can get this to zoom, you should be able to see that. So the turn coming up is actually not onto Cedar Street. The turn, I am currently on Church Street. The turn I am going to make is onto what's I guess, I'm not really, well, that's Meeting House Way. So it's also known as Route 149 around here. But that is a hard right-hand turn followed immediately by a hard left turn. 90 degrees, I would say, in both cases. So again, this sort of bare right indicator in 3/10 of a mile, although the distance is correct, the name of the street is incorrect. That's not the street that I'm on. That's also not the street that I'm turning onto. So, the line is correct. I can certainly follow the red line. That'll get me where I need to go. Obviously, again, these are my neighborhoods, so I'm going to get where I need to go. But if you were using this for routing, just be aware, especially if you're on a data page. It's not going to pop up because I'm not moving apparently. But if you're on a data page and that were to turn up and you are not watching the map, it's still not accurate enough to just go by that. You may have to flip back and forth between the maps if there are some tricky turns coming up.
So let's go quickly through these two rides that were recorded simultaneously. So again, I've got the Karoo in purple, the Garmin in blue. Basically, all the numbers are fine here. I don't believe I had auto pause on, but it's possible I did because I think I did because I didn't get turn by turn for this ride, and that's, again, seems to be, to me, the kicker to this thing. At least on my unit. I don't know. I know other people have reported this. Some people have said, no, it's definitely not that. But in my experience, and you saw it in those clips, that is, for me, the problem. And I would prefer to have auto pause on, especially now with the corrected, I guess, auto pause that actually does it correctly, doesn't pop up a giant thing in your face. You can still page through screens. Anyways, I would prefer to have auto pause on, and I don't usually need turn by turn, but where the two seem to be incompatible right now, it's a little bit problematic. I'm actually just noticing this, and I don't know what's going on here. I thought one of the things on that previous screen was about actually fixing elevation spikes, but it's given me 31,000 feet of climbing again, which is odd. We'll see what the next ride is, because I know that the Garmin and the Karoo were within about 30 feet yesterday when I rode. This is a ride from Thursday. Once again, the Karoo is a little bit low on mileage, and it seems like it's consistently that way. Everything else is pretty, the average speed is going to be different because the time over, and I'm not sure where the temperature is actually coming from. So, and obviously there's no power here because the power meter was malfunctioning. So much of this is going to be, I guess, boring because there's really not a lot to show. Although I think you can almost sort of see here why the Karoo is getting less mileage and potentially less speed, because you can see the purple ducking behind or below the blue line in lots of different areas, and it doesn't seem like you ever see it above. So it's basically consistently low. I did double check and this could be my fault. I'll admit it right now. I did double check, and I was off by about, I think I was low by 20 millimeters on my circumference, maybe 10. I don't know, because it's difficult to know for sure, and I guess I shouldn't say it's difficult. I don't remember, because you have to put it into the Karoo in inches down to the 100th plates, and on every other cycling computer I've ever seen, that where you have to set this or where it sets it for you, it gives you that measurement in millimeters. So, 83.19 inches, I have to put it into Google and do the math, or I have to convert the 2113 millimeters into inches to get it right. So the thing with the Garmin is it constantly changes that, so I can fix it. I can transfer that number to the Karoo. I could go ride right now, and because of different tire pressure or whatever the settings are on the Garmin, it may sense that the circumference has changed, recalculate it, and then I'm off once again. So where the Karoo doesn't do that auto recalculation or calibration of the speed sensor, this is the situation that results. So all this stuff is going to be very boring, so we're going to just clear this one and we're going to go to the next ride. So let's see, these are the rides on the 18th. Why am I not getting a summary? Oh, I have to turn that off. Okay, so this is the Garmin, and you can see it up here. Karoo is still not reporting. I don't know if this is something they need to put in the fit file or some other, I don't know what they need to do, but it does show up correctly now in Strava. It doesn't. It shows up as this weird unknown fit device at least in Golden Cheetah. So there's the Karoo. There is the Garmin. This should be slightly more interesting because I did have power working, but I'm actually curious if the power meter is actually good, so when we get to these other tabs I'm going to see if there was significant dropout. Need to put the comparison back on so we can see. So this is going to be all screwed up because I started the devices at different times. So I think I had the Karoo running for quite a bit longer than the Garmin, so these are going to be a little bit weird. And the Garmin does, although this is interesting because these are way closer than I thought. Oh, this is the moving time. I know I stopped for more than 2 minutes because I recorded a couple of videos that you've already seen. So that's interesting. And the elevation, again, is completely bonkers over here. I really don't know what that's about because it did display correctly on the Karoo, the end screen. I think I got like 510 feet on the screen, so I'm not sure where this number is coming from, unless this is an issue only with Golden Cheetah, which I suppose is possible. The power numbers all look reasonably close. They're not as identical as they've been sometimes. The heart rate being off by 6 does seem a little weird. I guess I should have looked at these quickly before I started recording, but for the most part, everything seems fine. This is the part that's going to be way off. This zone 1 time, but this is all the stop time and the difference in. So when I was actually working, even in zone 2, these numbers actually look pretty good. But this is obviously going to be way off. And the same thing here. I'm just sitting in my driveway talking to a video camera. So once I actually start working, these numbers are close. So this should be a little more interesting, although unfortunately now, because I didn't start them in the identical spot, there is a bit of a time shift, but you can sort of see that it actually does look like it's okay. The kind of humps and valleys here, although they're separated, actually look okay. What I was more interested in is if I could see any significant dropouts, and it's hard to tell because now of the shifting. So I may have to try to trim this up at some point. I'm not going to do it now. I may have to trim that up and kind of overlay it more directly and see if I can see if I'm seeing anything. I'm not seeing a lot of spikes. So I mean, here's a section that's I guess can we do this? What is this? Smooth. This is smoothing. Okay, that's not what I wanted. Although it does help a little bit. I thought there was a way to, oh, here it is. There's a way to zoom in just on a section. So I was trying to pick this section that's relatively consistent. So yeah, I mean it's off because again the ride is off. But what I guess is good is that there aren't any complete dropouts. So maybe I have to call or email Stages again and see if they want to maybe let me keep my thing if it's not actually broken. I don't want to send it back to them if it's not broken, although I wouldn't mind having the newer hardware in it. But if it's not actually broken, it kind of feels like it's like maybe it's on the way out, but it's not completely broken. So it's a hard call. I guess I'm gonna be honest with them and let them know that it appears to be working again. And do they really want to do the swap out, or do they want to just kind of mark it as maybe it's an issue and replace it in the future if they need to? So. But let's see, let's get through this here. This looks good. The map's not going to show us anything. Power numbers seem okay. That they line up reasonably well. They've never lined up exactly. Heart rate. This is going to be weird, obviously, because then I finally understand why this chart is weird, because the Karoo was not paused. So there's a whole bunch of stuff recorded at nearly resting heart rate here. Speed curve looks good, although shifted a little bit to the left for the Karoo, which you would expect. Cadence is much better. So all this stuff looks pretty good. So again, this is going to be a long one. I realize I've been rambling a bit, but I felt like there was a lot of information to get out, and there were a lot of things on that list of for the software update. So hopefully you found this useful. If you've gotten this far, thank you for watching.